Listen to me. You want to know the difference between people who talk about leadership and people who actually lead? It's simple. Real leaders don't start by pointing fingers. They start by looking in the mirror. That mirror doesn't just show your face. It shows your decisions, your discipline, your habits. Because at the end of the day, leadership is not about blaming the team, the economy, the government, or the situation. Leadership is about accountability. When a real leader looks in the mirror, they say, if my team failed, I failed them. We didn't hit the goal. I didn't prepare them. If we fell short, I didn't give enough of myself. See, the mirror doesn't lie. It forces you to be honest. Most people avoid that mirror. They want to blame somebody else, but real leaders, they embrace it. They say, let me fix me first. Because when you fix the man or the woman in the mirror, the world around you changes. When you grow, your family grows. When you improve, your business improves. When you change, everything around you begins to shift. That mirror is your best coach. That mirror is your biggest critic. And that mirror, if you're bold enough to look, will turn you into the kind of leader people will follow even through fire. Stop blaming. Stop complaining. Look in the mirror. Own it. Go from it. That's what makes a leader. Not the title, not the office, not the money, but the courage to take responsibility. So the next time something goes wrong, don't look out the window for excuses. Look in the mirror for answers. Because real leaders always start with the person staring back. Listen to me. The very first step of leadership, the real beginning of greatness, is accountability. You can have all the talent in the world. You can have the best team, the best resources, the best strategy. But if you don't take accountability, if you don't own everything in your life, you will never be a true leader. Too many people want the position, but they don't want the responsibility. They want the credit when things go right, but they disappear when things go wrong. That's not leadership. That's not greatness. That's selfishness. A real leader stands in the middle of success and failure and says, whatever happens, it's on me. And I know some of you don't like that because it's heavy. It's a lot to carry. It doesn't feel fair. You want to say, but team, my team didn't work hard enough. My people didn't listen. The circumstances weren't right. The economy, the weather, the system, the lack of support. It's not my fault. But hear me clearly. Excuses don't build leaders. Excuses don't build empires. Excuses don't build legacies. Accountability does. Accountability does. You see, accountability means you stop running from the truth. It means you stop playing the blame game. And when you accept that everything in your life, everything in your business, everything in your family, everything in your circle starts with you, something powerful happens. You gain control. As long as you're blaming other people, you give away your power. You're telling the world, I'm not in control. I can't change this. I can't fix this. But when you look in the mirror and say, no, this is on me suddenly you've got the power to shift it, to improve it, to change it. That's why accountability has to come first. Because without accountability, there is no growth. Think about it. If I believe the reason I failed is always outside of me, then I never have to change. I never have to grow. I can just sit back and blame life for everything. But when I say, it's me, then I have to confront myself. I have to confront my habits, my laziness, my procrastination, my lack of preparation, my mindset, my weaknesses. That's the uncomfortable truth. And that's why most people avoid accountability, because the mirror doesn't lie. It shows you everything. But hear me, the leaders, the ones who make history, they run toward accountability. They welcome it, they embrace it, because they know the secret. Accountability isn't a burden, it's a superpower. When you own everything, you can change anything. I'll never forget when I was young, I used to blame everybody else for where I was in life. I didn't have my father in the house. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the opportunities. And as long as I lived in that blame, I stayed stuck. But the day I stood up and said, hey, it's not about what you don't have. It's about what you're going to do with what you got. That was the day my life changed. Accountability was the key that unlocked everything else. And listen to me, leaders aren't judged by how they handle success. Anybody can stand tall when things go right. Leaders are judged by how they handle failure. When everything falls apart, do you point the finger or do you point at yourself? When the team misses the deadline, do you throw them under the bus or do you say, I didn't prepare them well enough. I didn't lead strong enough. I didn't communicate clearly enough. That's leadership. That's accountability. Some of you are in positions right now where you're wondering why people don't follow you, why people don't trust you, why your team doesn't give you 100%. And it's not because they don't respect your title. It's not because they don't respect your intelligence. It's because they've seen you dodge accountability. They've seen you pass the blame. And when people see that, they stop believing in you. Because at the core of leadership is trust. And nothing builds trust like accountability. When your people see that you take the hit, that you own the failure, they will run through walls for you. They will give you everything because they know you've got their back. Accountability is not just about failure, though. It's about success, too. Don't just take responsibility when things go wrong. Take responsibility for making things go right. Don't wait for opportunities to come knocking. Create them. Don't wait for someone else to fix the problem. Fix it yourself. Don't wait for the conditions to be perfect. Move forward anyway. That's accountability. Let me tell you something. The greatest leaders in history weren't the smartest. They weren't the strongest. They weren't the most talented. They were the most accountable. They were the most accountable. They said, if it's got to happen, through me. And that's why they left legacies. That's why their names are remembered. Now, accountability isn't glamorous. Nobody celebrates the person who takes the blame. Nobody throws a party for the one who admits, I messed up. But over time, accountability pays. Over time, accountability builds character. It builds credibility. It builds influence. Because when you're accountable, people know exactly who you are. They know you're solid. They know you're dependable. They know they can count on you. And that's priceless. The truth is, accountability is freedom. When you live a life of blame, you're in chains. You're bound by what other people do, by what other people decide, by what life throws at you. But when you live a life of accountability, you're free. Because no matter what happens, you say, I control my response. I control my decisions. I control my attitude. I control my grind. That's freedom. That's power. That's leadership. That's power. So here's the challenge. The next time you face a setback, the next time you face failure, the next time things don't go the way you planned, don't point the finger. Don't complain. Don't run. Stop. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, what could I have done better? How can I grow from this? What's the lesson here? And then act on it. That's accountability. And that, my friends, is the foundation of real leadership. Listen to me very close. You can lie to the world. You can lie to your boss. You can lie to your family. You can't even lie to yourself in your mind. But when you stand in front of that mirror, the truth always shows up. The mirror never lies. The mirror is the one place where your excuses don't work, where your stories don't work, where your fake confidence doesn't work. The mirror doesn't care about how you dress it up. It doesn't care about how you justify it. The mirror shows you exactly what you've been doing. It shows the truth about your effort, your habits, your discipline, your commitment. That reflection you see, that's the real you. And that's why most people don't like looking. They glance at it when they're getting ready in the morning. They check it real quick to fix their hair, but they don't stand there long enough to confront themselves. Because if you stare long enough, you'll see more than your face. You'll see your truth. You'll see the mornings you hit snooze instead of grinding. You'll see the workouts you skipped. You'll see the opportunities you wasted. You'll see the times you said, I'll do it tomorrow, but tomorrow never came. The mirror exposes it all. That's why real leaders, real champions, they don't avoid the mirror, they embrace it. Because they know that if you can't face the truth about yourself, you'll never grow. Growth starts with honesty. Change starts with honesty. Success starts with honesty. Success starts with honesty. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't improve what you keep ignoring. And the mirror won't let you hide. It forces you to deal with reality. I remember early in my journey, I used to tell myself I was working hard. I convinced myself that I was giving my all, but when I looked in the mirror, I couldn't lie to myself. I knew deep down I wasn't going all in. I knew I was cutting corners. I knew I was watching more TV than I should, sleeping in more than I should, putting things off. The mirror reminded me. It looked back at me and said, hey, stop playing. You know you're not doing enough. And that's when it hit me. If I wanted to get to the next level, I had to stop lying to myself. Had to let the mirror tell me the truth, even when it hurt. That's what some of you need right now. You need to stop running from the mirror. Stop running from the mirror. Stop running from the truth. Because the truth is, you're not where you want to be. Not because of the economy, not because of the government, not because of your family, not because of your boss, but because of the person in the mirror. Because if you are the problem, then you are also the solution. If the mirror shows you weakness, you can build strength. If the mirror shows you inconsistency, you can develop discipline. If the mirror shows you fear, you can grow courage. See, the mirror doesn't just expose you, it teaches you. It coaches you. It challenges you. That reflection staring back at you is saying, are you really who you say you are? Are you really living up to the standard you talk about? Are you really the leader you claim to be? The mirror keeps you accountable when nobody else is around. Because let's be real, when you're in front of other people, it's easy to put on a mask. It's easy to talk the talk. But when you're alone, when it's just you and that reflection, that's when you find out who you really are. And listen, the mirror doesn't care about your feeling. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your story. It only shows results. If you've been grinding, the mirror will show a champion. If you've been slacking, the mirror will show it too. And that's why so many people avoid it. They don't want to face the evidence. They'd rather live in denial. But real leader, they want the truth. They'd rather hurt with the truth than be comfortable with a lie. So here's the challenge. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, don't just glance in the mirror. Look deep. Ask yourself the hard questions. Are you really doing everything you can to be great? Are you really giving 120% to your craft? Are you really being the kind of leader, parent, partner, or friend you claim to be, or are you faking it? Now be honest, because honesty is the first step to growth. And don't just use the mirror to criticize yourself. Use it to push yourself. When I stand in front of the mirror now, I don't just see who I am. I see who I could be. I see the potential. I see the future. I see the man I'm chasing, and that motivates me. The mirror becomes a vision board. It reminds me not just of where I am, but of where I need to go. But let me warn you, the mirror will only change you if you're willing to act on what it shows. Some people see the truth, but they don't move. They admit they're slacking, but they don't adjust. They admit they're procrastinating, but they don't change their habits. They admit they're not leading right, but they don't correct themselves. That's not leadership. That's laziness. Don't just look in the mirror. Use the mirror. Let the truth fuel you. Let the truth drive you. Let the truth drive you. Let the truth force you to become the best version of yourself. And here's the beauty of it. Once you start being honest with yourself in the mirror, you'll start being honest with the world. You'll stop pretending. You'll stop faking. You'll stop performing. People will see the real you, and that authenticity will inspire them. Because in a world full of fake, real stands out, and the mirror is where real begins. The mirror never lies. It's your best friend and your toughest critic. It will break you down, but it will also build you up. It will show you where you're weak, but it will also show you where you're strong. It will confront you, but it will also challenge you. And if you're bold enough to look, bold enough to listen, bold enough to accept what you see, that mirror will transform you into a leader worth following. Consistency matters. You can talk about success all day long. You can dream about leadership. You can write goals down in your notebook. But if you don't show up every single day with discipline, with focus, with hunger, you'll never see those goals come alive. The difference between average people and great leaders isn't talent. It's consistency. Everybody has moments of greatness. But real leaders don't just shine once in a while. They show up every single day like the mirror is waiting for them. That mirror doesn't care about what you did yesterday. It wants to know what you're doing today. You can't fake it. You can't trick it. Consistency is what gives you credibility. Think about it. People don't follow leaders who are hot one day and cold the next. People don't follow leaders who say one thing and then do another. Leadership is built on trust, and trust is built on showing up the same way every single time. If your team sees you working hard only when the cameras are on, if they see you giving effort only when it's easy, they won't follow you when things get tough. But if they see that you are consistent, that you practice what you preach, that your work ethic never changes, then they'll believe in you. They'll run through a wall for you, not because of what you said, but because of what you showed them through your consistency. The mirror is honest about consistency. You can't stand in front of it and pretend. If you miss your workout, the mirror knows. If you skip studying, the mirror knows. If you broke your promises to yourself, the mirror knows. And when you build a habit of looking at yourself every day, you start realizing that consistency isn't about the big, dramatic moments. It's about the small daily actions that add up. It's about doing the right thing, even when nobody's clapping for you. It's about getting up early when no one's watching, about staying late when you're tired, about pushing one more rep when your body says quit. Consistency isn't sexy, it's not glamorous, and it doesn't make headlines. But consistency is what separates those who almost had it from those who achieved it. Think about athletes. The greatest ones aren't just talented. They're consistent. They show up to practice every day. They master the fundamentals. They repeat the boring drills until their body can't get it wrong. It's the same in leadership. Real leaders don't get tired of doing the little things right. They understand that consistency and preparation leads to consistency in results. And listen, consistency is hard. Life is going to test you. Distractions are going to come. You'll have days when you don't feel like showing up, when you don't feel like putting in the work. But that's when leaders are born. In those moments when you push through, when you stay consistent, even when your emotions don't line up. Anybody can be consistent when it's easy. Real leaders stay consistent when it's hard. They don't let moods, circumstances, or excuses break their routine. That's why they stand out. Your team, your family, your business, they're not looking for perfection. They're looking for consistency. They want to know you'll be there, that you won't quit, that they can count on you. Every time you break your own word, every time you let yourself off the hook, you weaken that trust. But every time you stay consistent, even in the small things, you strengthen it. Consistency is the invisible glue that holds leadership together. Without it, everything falls apart. Think about the mirror again. When you look in it, you're either proud because you stay consistent, or you're ashamed because you broke your own standard. That feeling, that reflection, is what shapes your confidence. Confidence isn't built by shouting affirmation. It's built by keeping promises to yourself over and over again. Every time you stay consistent, you tell yourself, I can trust me. And when you trust yourself, others start trusting you too. Some of you are waiting for a big breakthrough, but breakthroughs don't come from one big action. They come from thousands of small, consistent actions stacked on top of each other. Real leaders know that. They don't chase quick fixes. They don't chase shortcuts. They know the long game is consistency. They know the mirror rewards those who don't quit. You can fool people with words. You can impress them with moments, but you can't sustain leadership without consistency. The mirror will catch you. Your team will catch you. Eventually, the truth comes out. So stop chasing perfection and start chasing consistency. Wake up every day and put in the work. Not sometimes, not when it's convenient. Every day. Over time, consistency will make you unstoppable because it builds momentum that nothing can shake. When you look in the mirror tomorrow morning, don't ask yourself if you feel like it. Ask yourself if you're consistent enough to deserve the success you say you want. Because leadership isn't built in one day. It's built every day. And the mirror knows exactly how consistent you've been. There's something powerful about the way true leaders operate when things don't go according to plan. Most people, when adversity shows up, start pointing fingers. They look outside of themselves for someone to blame, some external factor to hold accountable. But real leaders, the ones who stand out, the ones who separate themselves from the crowd, they don't start with blaming others. They start with the mirror, because when you're truly leading, you understand that accountability begins and ends with you. It doesn't matter what environment you're in, what resources you lack, or what opposition you face. When you're a real leader, you take ownership of the situation before you expect anyone else to follow. Now, let's be real for a second. It's easy to blame your team when they don't perform. Easy to blame the economy when money gets tight. Easy to blame circumstances when things fall apart. But the question a true leader asks themselves is, what role did I play in this outcome? What could I have done differently? Did I communicate clearly? Did I prepare thoroughly? Did I lead by example? That's the difference between someone who simply holds a position of authority and someone who actually leads. Leadership is not about barking orders. It's about embodying responsibility in such a way that people feel inspired to follow. When you look in the mirror, you're confronting the truth, and truth can hurt. Maybe you weren't as disciplined as you thought. Maybe you got complacent after a few wins. Maybe you didn't listen when feedback came your way. The mirror doesn't lie. And that's why real leaders are not afraid of it. They welcome it because every flaw they see in themselves becomes an opportunity to grow. You can't change what you refuse to acknowledge, and you can't grow if you keep pretending it's someone else's fault. Think about the leaders you admire most. They aren't perfect, but they are accountable. When something goes wrong, they don't hide. They don't shift blame. They stand up and say, "Us on me." And what happens when a leader does that? Their people trust them more. Their team respects them more. Their influence grows because people want to follow someone who doesn't just celebrate the wins, but also takes ownership of the losses. That's where credibility is built. That's where real leadership shines through. I want you to understand that looking in the mirror is not about self-pity. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about clarity. It's about being brutally honest with yourself so you can actually improve. Go. If you messed up, admit it. If you slacked off, own it. If you failed to prepare, acknowledge it. Then make the necessary adjustments. The mirror isn't there to shame you, it's there to sharpen you. And the leaders who avoid it, who refuse to take responsibility, they may lead for a little while, but eventually their influence collapses because people can see through blame. Let me give you an example. Imagine a coach after a tough loss. He could come into the press conference and say, "My players didn't execute. The refs made bad calls. The other team had an advantage." But when a great coach steps up to that microphone and says, "That loss is on me. I didn't prepare my team well enough. I didn't make the right adjustments." We will be better because of it. Everybody listens. The players, the fans, the organization, they all respect it because that's ownership. That's leadership. Looking in the mirror is also about setting the standard. When people see that you take responsibility, they start doing the same. Accountability becomes contagious. But if a leader avoids the mirror and always shifts blame, guess what? The team learns to do the same. Nobody takes responsibility, nobody grows, and the cycle of mediocrity continues. If you want excellence in your team, it has to start with you. And it starts every morning with a mirror check. Asking yourself, am I showing up the way I expect others to show up? Am I modeling the discipline, the consistency, the commitment that I demand from my people? Real leaders also understand that the mirror isn't just about the mistakes. It's about the wins too. You've got to check yourself even when things are going well, because success has a way of making people arrogant. Success can make you think you're untouchable, that you don't have flaws anymore. But the mirror will remind you there's still work to do. There's still areas where you can grow, no matter how high you climb. The mirror will humble you if you're willing to look. That's why leaders who last are the ones who never stop checking themselves. They don't get complacent. They don't assume they've arrived. They understand that leadership is a constant process of reflection, adjustment, and growth. Every setback is a lesson. Every victory is a test. And the mirror is the tool that keeps them grounded and focused. So when you hear that phrase, real leaders look in the mirror, understand it's not just a catchy line. It's a principle for life. Whether you're leading a business, a family, a team, or even just yourself, the habit of self-reflection is what separates the good from the great. You can't control everything around you, but you can always control how you respond. And the first step to controlling that response is being honest about who you are and where you stand. When you wake up tomorrow and you face that mirror, don't just see your reflection, see your responsibility. See your influence. See the opportunity to be better today than you were yesterday. That's what leadership is all about. Everybody wants growth. Everybody talks about leveling up. They say, I want more money, I want more success, I want more respect, I want my family to be proud, I want to build a legacy. But listen to me carefully. Growth doesn't start with your job, it doesn't start with your bank account, it doesn't start with your followers on social media, it doesn't start with your environment. Growth starts within. You can't grow out there until you grow in here. You can't expand your business until you expand your mindset. You can't lead people until you can lead yourself. You can't expect to change the world until you've changed the world inside of you. And that's the part people don't want to hear. Because it's easier to point to everything outside and say, when the economy gets better, I'll grow. When my boss finally notices me, I'll grow. When people start supporting me, I'll grow. When my circumstances line up, I'll grow. But life doesn't work like that. If you're waiting for the world to change before you change, you're going to be waiting forever. The truth is, the world doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. If you want different results, you got to become a different person. Let me put it like this. Tree doesn't grow because somebody outside pulled on its branches. Grows because something inside the seed activated. Something inside the roots pushed deeper. Something inside the trunk strengthened. The outside fruit is always a reflection of the inside growth. That's why I keep telling you, growth starts within. I remember when I was homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings, eating out of trash cans. I wanted my life to change so bad. I used to pray for a miracle, pray for someone to come save me, pray for a breakthrough. But nothing happened until I decided to change me. I had to start working on my discipline. I had to start working on my mindset. I had to start controlling my habits. The moment I shifted inside, everything outside started to shift too. People began to take me seriously. Opportunities began to show up. But it wasn't magic. It was me becoming a different person. You want success? Then stop waiting for opportunities and start becoming the kind of person who attracts opportunities you want. Love. Go. Stop waiting for the right partner and stop becoming the kind of person who deserves love. You want wealth? Stop wishing for money and start developing the mindset, the discipline, and the habits that create money. The outside will always follow the inside. But here's the problem. Most people want to skip that part. They want the fruit without the root. They want the reward without the responsibility. They want the spotlight without the struggle. And so they chase external things, new cars, new houses, new clothes, new followers, but inside they're the same. And because they never grew within, they lose it all. That's why you see people win the lottery and go broke. That's why you see athletes make millions and end up with nothing. Nothing? Because they changed their bank account, but didn't change their character. They grew their lifestyle, but didn't grow their discipline. They changed the outside, but never worked on the inside. And if the inside doesn't grow, the outside can't sustain. Growth within means asking yourself the hard questions. Who am I becoming? What habits am I building? What weaknesses am I ignoring? What fears am I running from? What lies am I telling myself? That inner work is what determines everything. Because once you conquer yourself, there's nothing outside that can stop you. But if you can't conquer yourself, everything outside will always stop you. You know why some people keep repeating the same cycle year after year. It's not because life hates them. It's not because they're unlucky. It's not because they're unlucky. It's because they keep trying to change everything around them while staying the same inside. They get a new job, but they keep the same lazy habits. They move to a new city, but they keep the same toxic mindset. They get in a new relationship, but they bring the same broken patterns. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Nothing changes because they didn't change. Growth within isn't glamorous. It's not about posting your wins on Instagram. It's about the mornings you wake up early when nobody's clapping for you. It's about reading the books, studying, practicing, grinding when nobody notices. It's about telling yourself the truth, even when it hurts. It's about cutting off the bad habits, cutting off the distractions, cutting off the old you that keeps pulling you back. That's the real growth. And the world won't see it right away, but eventually it shows. Just like the seed under the soil. Nobody sees it growing, but when it breaks through, everybody notices. Let me tell you something. If you don't like what you're seeing outside, stop complaining and check inside. If you're broke, check your money mindset. If you're failing in school, check your study habits. If your relationships keep falling apart, check your character. If you're not leading well, check your discipline. Everything you see outside is a reflection of what's going on inside. And the good news is, you control the inside. You control your thoughts. You control your effort. You control your decisions. You control your response. That's power. Growth within is about ownership. It's about saying, I am responsible for my life. I am responsible for my results. I'm responsible for who I become. And once you take that responsibility, you stop being a victim and you start being a leader, because leaders don't wait for the world to hand them growth. Leaders build it from the inside out. So I'm telling you right now, stop chasing the outside. Stop thinking that if you just had a little more money, a little more support, a little more recognition, then life would be different. No, life will be different when you're different. Life will grow when you grow. Life will improve when you improve. That's the truth nobody wants to hear, but it's the only truth that works. Growth starts within. Excuses are the enemy of leadership. You can't lead and make excuses at the same time. You can't expect people to follow you if every time something doesn't go right. You got a story, you got a reason, you got somebody else to blame. Excuses kill leadership because excuses kill trust. Trust. And without trust, there is no leadership. Everybody's got a reason why they can't, why it didn't happen. And I get it, life is tough. Things happen that are outside of your control. But let me tell you something, the people who rise to the top, the people who inspire others, the people who build legacies are the ones who refuse to let excuses define them. They don't deny reality. They don't pretend challenges don't exist, but they don't use those challenges as a reason to quit. They don't let those challenges become a story that limits them. You know what excuses really are. They're permission slips for mediocrity. They're permission slips you write for yourself to stay average, to stay stuck, to stay comfortable. You tell yourself it's not my fault, so I don't have to change. That's what an excuse does. It gives you a way out. But leaders don't take the way out. Leaders take the hard road, the road of responsibility, the road of accountability. When you make excuses, what you're really saying is, I don't have control. You're saying my destiny is in someone else's hands. My success depends on circumstances. My future depends on luck. That's weakness. That's victimhood. And nobody follows a victim. People follow victors. People follow those who take ownership, those who say, yeah, this went wrong, but I'll fix it. Yes, this challenge came, but I'll overcome it. Yes, it's hard, but watch me find a way. That's leadership. I remember when I dropped out of high school, I had 1,000 excuses. I didn't have my father in my life. We didn't have money. The teachers didn't care. I could have written a book of excuses, but none of those excuses were going to change my reality. None of those excuses were going to get me where I wanted to go. And it wasn't until I stopped making excuses and started taking ownership that my life turned around. Excuses kept me in the same place. Accountability set me free. That's the trap so many people fall into. They think an excuse protects them, but it doesn't. It paralyzes them. It keeps them stuck. It keeps them small. Every time you make an excuse, you trade growth for comfort. You trade progress for pity. You trade leadership for victimhood, and over time, those excuses pile up and become chains. Chains that keep you from your potential. Chains that keep you from your purpose. Chains that keep you from your greatness. Think about it. The greatest leaders in history, the ones we remember, the ones who inspired nations, they all had 100 reasons to quit. They all had excuses available to them, but they refused to use them. They chose responsibility over excuses. They chose action over pity. They chose solutions over stories. And that's why they lay a legacy. You've got to understand, excuses don't just kill your leadership. They kill the people following you too. Because when you make excuses, you're teaching everyone under you to do the same. If the leader blames circumstances, the team will blame circumstances. If the leader points fingers, the team will point fingers. If the leader complains, the team will complain. Your excuse don't just hold you back. They hold back everyone you lead. That's why leaders must be ruthless with excuses. You gotta cut them out of your life completely. And let me keep it real. Most of your excuses aren't even true. They're not facts. They're stories you tell yourself. You say, I don't have time. No, you have time. You're just not managing it. You say, I don't have the resources. No, you got resources. You're just not maximizing them as an. You say, I can't because of my past. No, your past doesn't disqualify you. Your mindset does. Excuses feel true in the moment, but if you really examine them, they fall apart. They're lies you tell yourself to avoid the pain of responsibility. And here's the crazy part. Every time you make an excuse, you rob yourself of the lesson. Failure isn't the enemy. Failure teaches you. But excuses stop you from learning. Instead of saying, what can I do better? You say, it wasn't my fault. And when you do that, you miss the chance to grow. Excuses block your evolution. Leaders grow because they own the mistake. They face the pain, they learn the lesson, and they keep moving forward. You got to make a decision right now that excuses are not part of your DNA anymore. They're not in your vocabulary. They're not in your culture. You've got to draw a line in the sand and say, I don't make excuses. I make adjustments. I don't blame. I build. I don't point fingers. I point solutions. That's the mindset of a real leader. That's the mentality that separates the average from the great. Excuses feel good in the moment, but they cost you in the long run. They cost you trust. They cost you credibility. They cost you influence. They cost you opportunities. But when you eliminate excuses, you gain all those things back. People start to trust you because they know you'll take responsibility. People start to respect you because they know you don't run from the truth. Opportunities start to come your way because people want to work with someone who finds solutions instead of reasons to quit. Excuses are the easy road, but the easy road leads to nowhere. Leadership is the hard road, the road where you own the weight, where you carry the responsibility, where you stop making excuses and start making progress. And it's not easy, but it's worth it. Because at the end of the day, people don't remember the excuses you made. They remember the example you set. They remember the obstacles you overcame. They remember the responsibility you took. So I'm telling you right now, stop letting excuses kill your leadership. Stop letting excuses keep you small. Stop letting excuses rob you of your greatness. Own your life. Own your results. Own your mistakes. Own your future. That's what leaders do. They don't make excuses. They make history. Listen to me very carefully. Leadership is not just about power. It's not just about position. It's not just about making decisions. At the heart of leadership is one thing: trust. If people don't trust you, they won't follow you. If people don't trust you, they won't give you their best. If people don't trust you, you may have a title, but you don't have influence. And the way you build trust as a leader is simple. You take ownership. When things go wrong, when the plan doesn't work, when the team fails. Ownership means you don't point fingers. Ownership means you don't throw people under the bus. Ownership means you stand up and say, yeah, that's on me. And when you do that, people respect you. They may not like the outcome, but they'll trust you. They'll know you got integrity. They'll know you won't abandon them when things get hard. Think about it. Nobody wants to follow somebody who's always making excuses, always shifting blame, always running from responsibility. That type of leader creates fear, not trust. People start hiding mistakes instead of fixing them. People stop giving effort because they know no matter what happens, the leader won't own it. But when you lead with ownership, when you take responsibility, even for things that weren't entirely your fault, it sends a powerful message. I've got your back. I'm in this with you. I will protect you. That's what builds trust. You see, ownership is more than just words. It's a culture. It's the way you show up every day. It's the way you respond when things go wrong. It's the way you react when things go right. Leaders who own don't just take the blame, they also give away the credit. When the team wins, they say, it was all of them. When the team loses, they say, it was on me. That's ownership. And when your people see that, they'll go war for you. They'll give 120% because they know you're not just in it for yourself. I've been around leaders who never took ownership. I've watched how it destroys trust. Every time something didn't work out, they had an excuse ready. Every time the team fell short, they pointed at somebody else. You could see the team start shutting down. They stopped believing in the leader. They stopped caring because they knew their leader wasn't going to protect them, wasn't going to stand with them, wasn't going to own the situation. And without trust, everything falls apart. On the other hand, I've seen leaders who took ownership so seriously, inspired everyone around them. I remember working with a team once where the leader stood up after a huge failure and said, it was my fault. I didn't prepare you enough. I didn't communicate clearly. I didn't set the standard high enough. I would do better. And you know what happened? The team didn't blame him. They just didn't judge him. They respected him even more. They rallied around him because ownership builds trust. That's what separates average leaders from great leaders. Average leaders want to look good. They want to protect their ego, protect their image, protect their pride. Great leaders want to do good. They're willing to sacrifice their image for the sake of the team. They're willing to take the hit if it means that people are protected. They're willing to carry the weight if it means the mission moves forward. And that level of ownership is what makes people believe in you. But listen, ownership isn't easy. It requires humility. It requires honesty. It requires the ability to look in the mirror and admit when you were wrong, when you fell short, when you didn't deliver. And most people can't do that because their pride won't let them. They're more concerned with looking perfect than being real. But people don't need perfect leader. They need honest leader. They need honest leader. They need leaders who admit mistakes and then work to correct them. That's how trust is built. And ownership doesn't just apply when things go wrong. It also applies to your growth. Ownership means you take responsibility for your own development. You don't wait for someone else to train you. You don't wait for someone else to motivate you. You don't wait for someone else to push you. You say, it's on me to get better. It's on me to raise the bar. It's on me to sharpen my skills. That kind of ownership earns trust too, because people see you holding yourself to the same standard you hold them. Think about the leaders you respect the most. Why do you respect them most? Why? Because they were perfect, not because they never made mistakes. You respect them because when they did make mistakes, they owned them. You respect them because they admitted their flaws, because they didn't pretend to have it all together. And that honesty made you trust them more. When you lead with ownership, something powerful happens. People stop fearing fade. They know that if they fall, their leader will help them back up. They know their leader won't abandon them. And that creates freedom. That creates innovation. That creates a culture where people take risks, push boundaries, and give their best because they're not afraid of being blamed. Ownership creates trust, and trust creates progress. But let me keep it real. If you refuse ownership, if you keep dodging responsibility, you will lose trust fast. And once trust is gone, it's almost impossible to get it back. People will still show up, but they'll only give you the bare minimum. They'll protect themselves instead of protecting the mission. They'll stop caring about the vision because they don't believe in the leader. That's what excuses and blame do. They destroy trust from the inside out. So you've got to ask yourself, am I not leading with ownership? Do my people know I've got their back? Do they trust me to protect them when things get hard? Do they believe I'll give them the credit when things go right? If the answer is no, then you're not really leading. You're just managing. Real leaders build trust, and trust is built by ownership. At the end of the day, leadership isn't about you. It's about the people who follow you. And the only way to get people to follow you with their whole heart, with their whole effort, with their whole energy is to show them that you're willing to take responsibility. That's the price of trust. That's the price of leadership. And if you pay that price, if you choose ownership every single time, you'll build trust so strong that nothing can break it. Most people don't want to talk about character. They want to talk about results, titles, recognition, the spotlight. But here's the truth. Leadership is not tested when things are easy, when the money is coming in, when the crowd is clapping. Leadership is tested in the dark moments, in the painful seasons, in the situations where you got two options. Face the truth about yourself or hide behind excuses. That's when character shows up, or it doesn't. The mirror is the ultimate test of character because it doesn't flatter you, it doesn't filter you, it doesn't bend reality to make you feel good. It shows you exactly what's there. And real leaders don't run from that image, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. You see, comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort is what keeps people stuck, making the same mistakes year after year because they refuse to confront themselves. The mirror demands courage. The mirror says, oh, look at your flaws. Look at your laziness. Look at your inconsistency. And that's why so many avoid it. They would rather turn their heads, blame their team, blame their family, blame the economy. It's easier to point outward than to stare inward. But leaders don't get paid to be comfortable. Leaders get paid to tell themselves the truth. Leaders step up and face the discomfort because they know that's where growth begins. Think about it. When you stand in front of the mirror, you see everything you want to deny. You see the extra weight you promised to lose but did. You see the tired eyes from staying up too late when you knew you should have been working or resting. You see the frustration that comes from cutting corner instead of putting in the work. That reflection is a record of your choices. And here's the beautiful part. It's also a reminder that you can change it. The mirror doesn't just show what you've done wrong, it gives you the chance to do something right. But that chance only comes to those who are strong enough to accept the truth. Real leaders don't get offended by the truth. They get fueled by it. They use it as a compass. They say, if I don't like what I see, then I've got work to do. That's character. Character is not pretending to be perfect. Character is admitting when you're not and having the discipline to fix it. Weak people avoid the mirror because they're afraid of being exposed. Strong leaders embrace it because they know exposure leads to evolution. That's why you can trust a leader with character. They won't lie to themselves. And because they don't lie to themselves, they won't lie to you. I want you to imagine a leader who never looks in the mirror. They walk into a meeting blaming their employees for poor results, blaming their competitors for being too strong, blaming the market for being too tough. Every day they're pointing fingers. Do you think that leader is respected? Do you think their team believes in them? Absolutely not. Because deep down, everyone can see when a leader lacks character. People may follow out of obligation, but they won't give their best. On the other hand, when a leader steps up and says, this one is on me, I didn't prepare you. I didn't execute, I need to grow. Something shifts. That team doesn't lose respect, they gain it. They see a leader with character, and they want to fight harder for that kind of person. The mirror isn't about shame, it's about responsibility. It's not there to destroy you, it's there to build you. It's there to build you. But building requires breaking. It requires discomfort. Just like lifting weights, you don't get stronger without resistance. The mirror gives you resistance every time you look at it honestly. It resists your excuses. It resists your lies. It resists your comfort zone. And the leaders who grow are the ones who push through that resistance instead of walking away from it. That's why so many never make it to greatness, because they quit when the mirror gets too real. Let me tell you something. If you're serious about leadership, you've got to develop the muscle of self-confrontation. You've got to wake up, look yourself in the mirror and ask, am I giving everything I've got? Am I keeping the promises I made to myself? Am I living by the standards I set for others? That's not an easy conversation. That's a conversation that will break you down some mornings. But it will also shape you into someone unshakable. Because when you face your own reflection and refuse to run, there's nothing the world can throw at you that you won't handle. That's what separates character-driven leaders from comfort-driven leaders from comfort-driven leaders. Comfort-driven leaders crumble under pressure because they've never practiced facing themselves. Character-driven leaders stand tall because they've been through the fire of self-truth. The mirror has already burned away their excuses, so when life turns up the heat, they're ready. Think about your family, your business, your community. They don't need someone who hides behind excuses. They don't need someone who says, it's not my fault. They need someone who says, it starts with me. And that level of leadership only comes from character. Oh, that character is formed in the quiet moments when it's just you and the mirror. No applause, no audience, just accountability. So if you want to be a real leader, stop chasing comfort. Stop running from the truth. Get in front of that mirror and confront the parts of yourself that you don't want to see. Fix them, strengthen them, discipline them. Because every time you choose character over comfort, you're building the kind of leader who can't be shaken, who can't be bought, who can't be broken. And that's the kind of leader the world desperately needs. When a real leader looks in the mirror, they're not just checking their reflection, they're checking their responsibility. They understand the mirror never lies. It doesn't sugarcoat, it doesn't flatter, it doesn't make excuses. It gives you exactly what you put in front of it, and that's what makes it such a powerful tool for leadership. A true leader knows that before they can point fingers, before they can call out someone else, before they can demand accountability from their team, they must first hold themselves accountable. Looking in the mirror forces you to confront reality, and reality is where growth begins. Think about it. The easiest thing in the world is to blame someone else. When the business isn't hitting numbers, you can blame the market. When the team misses a deadline, you can blame them for being lazy. When relationships fall apart, you can blame the other person for not understanding. Excuses are unlimited, but leaders who operate with excuses are not leaders. They are followers of circumstance. The real leaders, the ones who stand tall and inspire others, are the ones who look in the mirror and ask, what could I have done differently? Where did I fall short? How can I change to make things better? That self-audit separates the greats from the average. Every organization, every family, every movement needs someone willing to stand in the mirror and accept responsibility. That doesn't mean everything is always their fault. But leadership isn't about fault. It's about responsibility. A great leader doesn't say, this isn't on me. They say, it may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility to help fix it. That mindset builds trust because people follow those who are willing to carry weight, not shift it. The mirror teaches humility, and humility is the foundation of influence. The mirror also reveals patterns. When you're honest with yourself, you see your tendencies. You see that maybe you procrastinate when the work gets too heavy. Maybe you realize you don't listen enough, and that's why there's a disconnect with your team. Maybe you see that your pride makes you resistant to feedback, and that's holding you back. The mirror exposes truth, and leaders who embrace that truth evolve. Leaders who avoid the mirror repeat mistakes until those mistakes cost them everything. Growth doesn't come from denial, it comes from reflection, literally and figuratively. But let's be real, it's uncomfortable. Nobody likes looking at themselves and admitting, I messed up. Nobody wants to say, I could have done more. But that discomfort is the very thing that sharpens you. Just like working out in the gym, the burn is what builds the muscle. The sting of accountability builds leadership muscle. The moment you stop making excuses and take ownership, you gain power. Power to change your situation, power to inspire, to shape outcomes instead of waiting on someone else to fix them. History is full of leaders who chose the mirror over excuses. Think about athletes who, after losing, didn't blame the referees, the field, or the weather, but said, we didn't execute. I didn't show up like I needed to. That level of honesty drives them to come back stronger. In business, CEOs who admit when they made the wrong call have more respect than those who hide behind spin. Even in personal life, parents who look in the mirror and admit their mistakes earn the love and respect of their children because authenticity always outlasts perfection. Always outlasts perfection. When leaders avoid the mirror, they stunt their growth and the growth of those around them. A leader who never takes responsibility teaches their people to hide, to deflect, and to settle. But a leader who embraces the mirror sets a culture of ownership. Imagine a workplace where every person says, I own my role, my results, I own my growth. That culture is unstoppable because it's built on responsibility instead of excuses. And it always starts with the person at the top being willing to look in the mirror first. Even beyond leadership titles, this principle applies to life. Each one of us is the leader of our own journey. If you want better results, you have to stop looking out the window and start looking in the mirror. The window will always show you other people, the distractions, the competition, the problems outside. The mirror shows you the one thing you can control, yourself. That's why real leaders don't waste energy pointing out the dirt on someone else's window when they haven't cleaned their own glass. They know the hardest, most necessary work starts within. The mirror also holds you accountable to your standard. It asks, are you living what you preach? Are you practicing what you demand from others? A leader can talk about discipline all day, but if the mirror reflects inconsistency, eventually people will see through the talk. The mirror won't let you hide from hypocrisy. It calls you to align your actions with your words. That's why when a real leader looks in the mirror, they're not just checking appearance, they're checking integrity. So every morning, every night, a true leader uses that reflection as a checkpoint. They don't avoid it. They don't cover it up. They don't look away. They ask themselves, am I proud of what I see? Am I moving in the right direction? Am I the kind of person I would follow? And if the answer is no, they don't blame anyone else. They go back to work on themselves until the mirror reflects the standard they want to set for the world. That's why real leaders always look in the mirror, because leadership isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. And when you master yourself, when you take full responsibility, when you own both the victories and the mistakes, you earn the right to lead others. The mirror keeps you honest, it keeps you grounded, and it keeps you growing. And in the end, the greatest leaders are not the ones who pointed out everyone else's flaws, but the ones who had the courage to confront their own. When you step into the role of a leader, the temptation to point outward is strong. It's easy to blame the team for not being committed enough, the system for not being efficient enough, or the resources for not being abundant enough. But a real leader knows the mirror is where the truth resides. When challenges rise, when projects fail, or when the vision starts to fade, they don't ask, what's wrong with them? They ask, what's wrong with me? What can I do differently? That single shift in mindset separates leaders who merely hold a position from leaders who leave legacies. Because when you blame others, you surrender control. But when you look in the mirror, you take ownership, and ownership is power. It's the power to adapt, the power to grow, and the power to change the environment by changing yourself first. Think about it. When a coach loses a championship game, the great ones don't stand in front of the media blaming the players. They take responsibility. They say, I didn't prepare them enough. I didn't make the right adjustments. I didn't lead effectively. That doesn't mean the players didn't make mistakes. It doesn't mean the circumstances weren't tough. It means the leader understands that their influence sets the tone for everyone else. If the team is unfocused, maybe the vision wasn't communicated clearly enough. If the team is unmotivated, maybe the leader hasn't ignited the fire in them. Leaders who look in the mirror understand that their reflection is the root of both the problem and the solution. You see, the mirror doesn't lie. It's the one place where you can't hide behind excuses or appearances. When you wake up and face yourself, you're forced to confront the gap between who you are and who you said you would be. Did you show up with discipline? Did you put in the extra hours? Did you lead with integrity? Did you treat people with respect? You can fool the world, you can fool your followers, but you can't fool that reflection staring back at you. And that's why true leaders embrace it. They don't run from their reflection. They run toward it because they know that facing themselves is the only way to create lasting change. Imagine running an organization where morale is low, and instead of firing off complaints or pointing fingers, you stand in front of the mirror and ask, what kind of energy am I bringing into this building? Do I walk in defeated? Do I walk in defeated? Do I inspire people with my attitude? Am I creating an environment where people feel valued? Because the truth is, people don't just follow instructions, they follow example. If you're lazy, they'll be lazy. If you're negative, they'll be negative. If you're inconsistent, they'll be inconsistent. The mirror reminds leaders that the culture of the team is a reflection of the culture within themselves. When leaders look in the mirror, they also embrace accountability. And accountability isn't easy, it's uncomfortable. It forces you to admit when you've fallen short, when you haven't kept your promises, when you fail to execute. But accountability is also liberating. Because once you own the failure, you also own the power to fix it. Leaders who look in the mirror don't get stuck in blame, they get moving to solution. They don't say it's over. They say, this is where we begin again. Stronger, sharper, and wiser. Think about history's greatest leaders. They didn't ascend to greatness because everything was perfect. They ascended because they refused to run from their flaws. They refused to run from responsibility. They were the first to say, I messed up. They were the first to admit, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn. And in doing so, they gave their people permission to grow, to risk, and to evolve without fear. The mirror became not a tool of judgment, but a tool of progress. It's not about beating yourself up. Real leaders don't stand in front of the mirror and drown in guilt or shame. They stand in front of it to adjust. An athlete checking form before lifting weights. The mirror helps them see where their posture is off, where their stance needs correcting. That reflection becomes feedback, and feedback is how you grow. Every morning, every night, they return to the mirror, not to criticize, but to calibrate. Because they know that leadership is not about perfection, it's about that direction. The mirror helps them make sure they're headed the right way. And here's the thing. People notice when a leader looks in the mirror, they see humility, they see honesty, they see someone who isn't too proud to admit their weaknesses or too arrogant to pretend they've got it all figured out. And that kind of authenticity builds trust. Trust is the currency of leadership. Without it, no one will follow you into the storm. But when people see you taking responsibility, when they see you facing the mirror, they know you also face the fire with them. When the leader looks in the mirror, it also inspires others to do the same. Accountability becomes contagious. Suddenly, instead of pointing fingers, the team starts asking themselves, what can I do better? That's when transformation happens. That's when the organization shifts from a culture of blame to a culture of ownership. And ownership breeds excellence because everyone is invested in improvement, not excuses. Leaders who avoid the mirror, who hide from reflection, often crumble under pressure. They spend energy covering up their flaws instead of fixing them. They chase applause instead of chasing growth. But leaders who embrace the mirror, they rise because they understand that the first battle of leadership is the battle within. And once you conquer yourself, there's no challenge outside that can defeat you. So the next time things go wrong, the next time the pressure is on, don't rush to point outward. Don't start crafting excuses. Don't start blaming the world. Go to the mirror, stand in front of it and ask, what role did I play? What can I change? What can I improve? Because at the end of the day, leadership isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. And the mirror is the only place where that mastery begins. When you talk about leadership, one of the hardest but most important things to embrace is accountability. Real leaders don't run from it. They don't hide behind excuses. And they don't try to pass the blame onto somebody else when things fall apart. A real leader understands that the position comes with a spotlight, and that spotlight shines brightest when something goes wrong. It's easy to take credit when the team is winning, when profits are up, when the crowd is cheering. Anybody can stand tall in those moments. But the real test of leadership is what you do when the bottom falls out, when the team misses the mark, when the vision doesn't go as planned. That's when a leader proves whether they're real or just playing the part. A real leader is willing to step up and say, this one's on me. Even if it wasn't entirely their fault, even if circumstances, timing, or other people played a role, a true leader knows that ownership begins at the top. When you are the one steering the ship, every wave, every storm, every obstacle ultimately becomes your responsibility, and you know why. Because accountability builds trust. The people who follow you are watching every move you make, and nothing destroys trust faster than a leader who dodges responsibility. The moment you start pointing fingers, the moment you shift blame to your team, you lose respect. People don't want to follow somebody who only wants the spotlight in the good times, but disappears in the dark. Think about it. How many times have you seen leaders, whether in business, sports, politics, or even in everyday workplaces, who throw their people under the bus the second something doesn't work out? That kind of leadership is weak. It creates fear. It creates fear, not loyalty. The team starts to play not to win, but to avoid mistakes. They stop taking risks, stop being creative, stop giving their best, because they know if something goes wrong, they'll be the scapegoat. But when a leader stands up and takes accountability, it does the opposite. It frees the team. It creates an environment where people can push, innovate, and give their all without being afraid of the consequences. True leadership says, if we fail, I'll carry it. If we succeed, we all share it. That's the kind of mindset that brings people together. That's the kind of mindset that turns a group of individuals into a team, and a team into a family. Accountability is the glue that holds that together. When a leader owns the outcome, it sends a powerful message. I'm in this with you. I'm not above you. I'm not detached from this fight. I'm carrying the same weight you're carrying. That's what makes people buy in. Yeah, that's what makes them go the extra mile. And let's be real, accountability is not about being perfect. Nobody is perfect. Leaders make mistakes. Leaders miscalculate. Leaders drop the ball. But the difference is that when a true leader makes a mistake, they don't hide it, they don't sugarcoat it, and they don't bury it. They confront it head on. They say, yeah, I made this call and it didn't work. I own that. Now let's figure out how to fix it. That level of honesty and humility doesn't make people lose respect for you. It makes them respect you more. Because it takes courage to stand up and admit when you're wrong. Too many people in leadership positions think that accountability will make them look weak. They think that if they admit fault, people will see cracks in their armor. But the truth is the exact opposite. Accountability doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look real. It makes you look human. It makes you look strong enough to face the truth. And in a world full of leaders who hide behind excuses, the one who steps up and says, "This was on me," is the one people will remember, respect, and follow. Now think about the mirror again. When you look in the mirror as a leader, it forces you to ask yourself, did I do everything I could? Did I prepare my people? Did I communicate clearly? Did I support them the way they needed? Did I step in when I should have, or step back when it was right to let them lead? The mirror doesn't lie. And if the answer is no, then accountability means owning up to that and fixing it. Not blaming others, not running from the truth, but standing tall and saying, I can do better, and I will. And here's the beauty of accountability. It doesn't just protect your team, it also makes you better. Every time you take ownership, you grow, you learn, you sharpen your vision. Accountability becomes a teacher. Instead of staying stuck in denial, instead of recycling the same mistakes, you gain wisdom. And over time, that wisdom is what separates good leaders from great leaders. The ones who rise to the top aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who take responsibility when they do, learn from it, and come back stronger. You can see this in sports. Think about a coach after a tough loss. The reporters are asking questions, the fans are angry, the pressure is heavy. A weak coach will say, other players didn't execute. They didn't follow the plan. But a real leader, a championship-level coach, will step up and say, that loss is on me. I didn't prepare them well enough. I didn't make the right calls. That simple statement changes everything. The players now know their coach has their back. They don't feel abandoned. They feel protected. And that makes them fight harder the next time, not just for themselves, but for their leader. Accountability also sets a standard. When a leader is accountable, the team learns to be accountable too. They see the example, and it pushes them to take responsibility for their roles as well. Accountability flows downward. If the leader dodges blame, the team will dodge it too. But if the leader owns up, the team will follow that example. That's how you build a culture of responsibility instead of a culture of excuses. And once that culture is built, success becomes a byproduct because everybody is focused on solutions instead of finger pointing. At the end of the day, accountability is leadership in its rawest form. It's not about power. It's not about authority. It's not about titles. No, it's about responsibility. It's about saying, I'm the one in the mirror, and everything starts with me. When leaders embrace that truth, they gain something far greater than just results. They gain respect. They gain loyalty. They gain influence. And most importantly, they gain the ability to lead people not just with words, but with actions. When a real leader looks in the mirror, they don't just see their reflection. They see the weight of responsibility staring back at them. They see the faces of the people depending on, the dreams entrusted to them, and the struggles that only they have the power to address. Leaders who look in the mirror do not run from accountability. Instead, they embrace it. They don't point fingers outward when things fall apart. They look inward. They don't waste energy blaming followers, circumstances, or luck. They know the mirror doesn't lie, and what it reveals is where their true work begins. The mirror is both humbling and empowering. It humbles leaders because it strips away excuses. It forces them to ask hard questions. Am I giving my best? Am I disciplined enough? Am I showing up the way I demand others to show up? But at the same time, it empowers them, shows them that the power to change outcomes rests with them. The person in the mirror is both the problem and the solution. That's why real leaders don't run from the mirror. They run to it. They understand that progress, whether in business, sports, family, or life, starts with the individual taking full ownership of their actions. A leader who looks in the mirror understands that credibility is built not on words, but on actions. Anyone can talk about discipline, sacrifice, and perseverance, but the person in the mirror knows the truth. The mirror reveals if you've been putting in the late nights or if you've been making excuses. It reveals whether you're living up to the standards you expect from others or if you're simply preaching what you don't practice. That's why real leaders start with themselves. They demand from themselves first before demanding from anyone else. They know that their team, their family, their followers, everyone will eventually mirror their behavior. If they see weakness, excuses, and shortcuts in the leader, they will adopt the same. But if they see discipline, integrity, and resilience, they will rise to match it. This self-accountability also builds trust. People will forgive mistakes, but they won't forgive hypocrisy. A leader who blames others when things go wrong, but takes the credit when things go right, loses the respect of their people. But a leader who stands in the mirror and says, if we failed, it starts with me. If we went, it's because of the team. Earns loyalty that no paycheck or speech could ever buy. The mirror forces leaders to live in truth, and truth creates trust. And trust is the foundation of leadership. But here's the thing. Looking in the mirror isn't comfortable. It's not easy to confront your flaws, your fears, your inconsistencies. It's painful to acknowledge that sometimes the gap between where you are and where you want to be is created not by the world, but by your own choice. Many people avoid the mirror for this very reason. They rather stay blind, pointing outward at everyone else. But real leaders don't avoid discomfort. They embrace it. They know growth only comes when you confront what's hard. So instead of avoiding the mirror, they lean into it. They let it challenge them. They let it convict them. They let it refine them into someone worthy of being followed. Another reason real leaders look in the mirror is because it keeps them grounded. Leadership has a way of inflating egos. Power, influence, and recognition can trick you into believing you're untouchable. But the mirror reminds you that you're human. It reminds you that no matter how much you've achieved, there's always more work to do, always more growth to pursue, always more ways to serve. The mirror strips away the illusions of greatness and replaces them with the truth. You're only as strong as your last act of discipline, your last moment of integrity, your last choice to put others above yourself. The mirror also becomes a place of renewal. Every day, leaders face criticism, pressure, and setbacks. It's easy to lose confidence or get weighed down by negativity. But when a real leader looks in the mirror, they don't just see flaws. They also see potential. They remind themselves, I've overcome before, I can overcome again. I'm built for this. I'm chosen for this role, not because I'm perfect, but because I'm willing to keep fighting. The mirror becomes a source of self-encouragement, a reminder that despite mistakes or failures, the journey isn't over. And perhaps the most powerful thing about the mirror is that it strips away comparison. Too many people waste energy looking out the window at what others are doing, what others have, what others achieve. But the mirror pulls your focus back to the only person you can truly control, yourself. Real leaders don't measure their worth against someone else's success. They measure it against the standard staring back at them in the glass. They ask, am I better than I was yesterday? Did I grow? Did I stretch? Did I give my all? That's why they win, because their only competition is the person in the mirror. Leadership is not about perfection. It's about responsibility. And responsibility begins with facing the reflection. The mirror teaches leaders to own their choices, live with integrity, inspire through example, and grow through self-awareness. It challenges them to be consistent, disciplined, and honest, not just in public, but in private. And when a leader masters the art of looking in the mirror, they create a ripple effect. Their courage to own their truth inspires others to do the same. Their willingness to be accountable raises the standard for everyone around them. And their decision to lead by example transforms not only their team or organization, but the culture itself. So when you think about why real leaders always look in the mirror, understand it's not vanity, it's vision. They know that every change they want to see in the world starts with the person staring back at them. They know that excuses don't change outcomes, but ownership does. They know that the mirror doesn't lie, and the truth it reveals, while sometimes uncomfortable, is always the key to growth. And that's what separates real leaders from pretenders. The courage to face themselves first, and the wisdom to build everything else from there.